With us now is Maryland Senator Kristen Holland, who sits on the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, it's always great seeing you. I thank you for your time. Just your reaction to this really historic swap.
Jose, always good to be with you. Look, those were heartwarming images to see those Americans and an American permanent resident come off that airplane, be greeted by the president and vice president of the United States, and most importantly, then embraced by their families. This was a clear victory for the diplomacy of the United States, and especially, of course, President Biden himself, who from the earliest days of his administration worked to repair these really fractured relationships with some of our closest allies. Those close allies were critical to getting this deal done.
Yeah, and this wasn't a deal that was hashed out in weeks or months, but no doubt years, and the president certainly taking a major role in those negotiations and conversations. But Senator, House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell issued a joint statement saying in part, without serious action to deter further hostage taking by Russia, Iran, and other states hostile to the United States, the costs of hostage diplomacy will continue to rise. What's your reaction to that? Does this deal and others like it set a precedent, a negative one, going forward?
Well, look, this is not the first kind of deal like this. It is a large one. And I think because of all the moving pieces here and who we got back, this was an agreement definitely worth doing. Look, as you know, there's always a risk of that downside in the years forward, which is why you have to weigh each of these. And I think that the message that President Biden and Vice President Harris sent was that we are determined to get our people home. And in this case, our diplomacy with the Chancellor of Germany, with the Prime Minister of Slovenia, is what made it happen. Those personal relationships that President Biden has forged.
Meantime, Senator, the Pentagon announced earlier this week that accused September 11th mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and two of his co-defendants had reached a plea deal that would spare them from the death penalty. Former Attorney General Eric Holder told NBC News he is angry about the deal, going after, quote, political hacks in Congress for blocking the Justice Department from trying them in federal court. What's your reaction to this deal?
Well, look, I'm not going to second guess these prosecutors who were dealing with this case in the military court with respect to what they arrived at. However, Eric Holder's right. I remember very well efforts that I supported, his efforts to allow the United States to try KSM and others in federal courts. And it was overwhelmingly Republicans who blocked that effort. They did not want to allow us to move the trial from Guantanamo to courts within the United States. And so, you know, those politicians that are upset now are some of the same people who blocked Eric Holder as Attorney General from prosecuting those cases in the United States in federal courts.
How do you feel about KSM not having to face the death penalty?
Well, I would have preferred the approach that Eric Holder had pursued. But again, I think that given what the prosecutors, the military prosecutors, had to work with, that they have probably gotten the best agreement that they could get under the circumstances. So I'm not going to second guess them, but I will second guess those politicians, mostly Republican politicians, who blocked that ability to bring this case to federal courts in the United States, where, as Eric Holder said, he was planning to pursue the death penalty.
And Senator, I focus our attention on Venezuela. If I could, Secretary of State Antony Blinken last night recognized that the United States recognized that Edmundo González Urrutia won the presidential elections in last Sunday's vote. The Venezuelan leader, Nicolás Maduro, has been arresting people. He's announced that he's going to create re-education camps for those that are opposed to him. What, Senator, is your message to the Venezuelan people?
Well, we stand with the Venezuelan people who overwhelmingly, it turns out, voted for Gonzalez and against Maduro. This is why many of us called immediately for transparency, for the Maduro government regime to release the results. And there's a reason, Jose, that they hid those results, because we now know, because we've seen results that were released by some of the opposition figures from about 80% of the polling places, that Gonzalez has, won comfortably here. And so this is clearly an effort to deny the will of the people, and the United States will continue to stand with the people of Venezuela.
So what will releasing Maduro's election committee's votes, what would that in any way do to forward the situation?
Well, first of all, it would show what the truth is, which is that Maduro lost, right? He is trying to cling on to this claim of legitimacy that he won when all the evidence shows otherwise. So this is why Secretary Blinken did, in my view, the right thing, recognizing the real winner here, Gonzalez. And this is why the United States is now going to use its levers and influence to push for a negotiation, to have a transition to the truly elected leader, Gonzalez. Now, obviously, we know Maduro and his cronies do not want to go quietly into the night, but the United States needs to work with our partners and allies in the region to ratchet up the pressure on behalf of the Venezuelan people.